fame. If you win it, comes and goes in a minute. Where's the real stuff in life to cling to?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Boomer Pod podcast, where we interview movie and TV celebrities that are part of the baby boomer generation. Our guest today is another renowned movie stunt coordinator, producer, and director, Mr. Chuck Borden. Welcome, Chuck, and thank you for being with us today.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Now, I'm going to refer to a movie that's been a while since you were involved with, and it was called Sleepers.
Yep.
With an unbelievable cast. Kevin Bacon, Brad Pitt, Robert De Niro, Dustin Hoffman, Minnie Driver, and Jason Patrick. What can you tell me about that movie?
God, that's been a while. I barely remember it. I think I was just a day player on it. I don't think I did a lot on it. It was funny because you say Sleepers. I'm currently in the Netherlands and I'm working on a series here called Sleepers, exactly the same.
Really?
Yes, it's a Dutch version, I think. We did. I was on it last season. This is the second season, and we did a murder yesterday where he abducted a guy and beat him up and burned him in a crematorium. But the Sleepers you're referring to, God, like I said, it's been a while, and I think at that time we were doing so many different things. I was just bouncing from project to project. I don't even remember what I did.
Did you interact with any of those actors?
No, in most cases we don't. A lot of the stuff we do is second unit, or it's a separate little thing. Even if it's first unit, a lot of times we'll be replacing talent. So they'll be off the set. We come in and kind of fill in. In this particular case, I don't think there was anything that we did with them directly. So they probably weren't with us on set.
And how about Star Trek? Now, you appeared in a number of those episodes. Tell us about that experience.
Oh, Star Trek was really good to me. I spent 13 seasons on that show, from the third year of Next Generation and all the way through the end of Voyager. So it was Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, and Voyager. I really got lucky. I was a perfect size to play most of the aliens. So I was Klingons, Jemadars, you name it. I was just the right size, and it became a point where basically me and a couple other stunt guys were so on it so much, they were making the costumes for us and not for the talent, because we were in it more than the talent was. But that was a great series. I had a lot of fun on that. I got to double John Delancey, who was Q. Wonderful, wonderful man. And actually, he surprised me. The first time I doubled him, I had to do a big ratchet across the stage. And he looked at me when I met him in the first time in the dressing rooms, in the makeup trailer. And he looks at, I introduced myself, and he says, "Well, what stunt are we doing?" And I said, "Oh, this is where you go to get the Amanda character, and she throws you across the room." He's like, "Well, she just throws me back. I can do it, right?" And I said, and I knew better. And it's like, I didn't want to say anything. It's like, "Well, talk to Dennis, who is the stunt coordinator." So talk to Dennis and see if it's something he thinks you can do. If not, I mean, I'm here to make you look good. And he just left it at that and never heard anything more. We get on the stage, and now I know it's a big ratchet across the stage into the wall. So they put the camera in my chest, and I get launched backwards and hit the wall, knocked me pretty much loopy. And I'm hanging at the end that they call cut, and the wire that I was on wouldn't let me fall all the way to the ground. So I was kind of like a puppet hanging just inches off the ground. And I see a hand come in to help me up. I'm figuring it's Dennis, my boss. And I look up, and it's John Delancey, and he helps me off the ground. He's like, "Dude, that was amazing." And we were just friends from now on out. He's such a wonderful guy. I had such a blast, working with him and playing his double.
And what was unique about that series based on all of the other things you've been involved in?
Well, that one was just, it was a challenge because everything we had to do, I never got to play myself. I was always in full makeup, full prosthetic. And something happened to my screen. There it goes. So the challenge for me was I was always in really uncomfortable clothes, full prosthetics, and really long days because it took 3 to 4 hours just to put the makeup on. We'd come in at 4 o'clock in the morning for the crew call to come in at 8, just so we can be ready. So we were into overtime by lunch.
That's
It
amazing.
was really long days. It was really taxing on us. I was young and was able to take it then. So it was, but it was so much fun because it was really my first real studio stuff. I had done some stuff in the studios, but I was more like a regular on that one. And for as long as it ran, you get to know everybody in the lot. I mean, security, I'd drive in, they'd say, "Good morning, Chuck." I mean, it was really a fun experience, working over at Paramount and getting, on what's now a memorable series. I get recognized from it all the time. People say, "Oh my God, you worked in Star Trek," and it was a lot of fun.
That's great. That's great. Now, you were involved in something called Stunt World Las Vegas, where being a stuntman for a day.
Oh,
Tell us about
it
that.
actually, it was starting out. It was a project that I had put together that I actually did in the Netherlands here after I moved. But I helped a friend of mine with a studio over by the airport in Las Vegas, and they wanted to do something different for their grand opening. And so they said, "Oh, we'll do a stunt show." I was like, "You know what? Stunt shows, they're really hard to do because when you do live, it has to be big or it just doesn't work." I said, "Let's do something that's more interactive and stuff like that." So we came up with this stunt world thing where the guests would come in and we'd be able to do some. We'd show them how to fights. We had a cable slide across the sound stage. We had a traveler ratchet set up. We put an airbag up so they can do high falls into it. It's only 15 feet, but it was more than enough for them. And we just did it for the one day, and it was something I was supposed to do on a regular basis as a business, and it never quite took off. And then that's where I met my wife when I was there, who's Dutch. And we moved to the Netherlands to raise a family. And I started here. We called it Stunt Camp. And up until COVID, it was doing quite well with kids' parties. And we ran for 7 years and no problems whatsoever. I still get recognized around town. The kids that are growing up now, they see me like, "Oh my God, there's a stuntman, there's a stuntman." They got their diplomas and, we had little wristbands that said Stunt Camp on it. A lot of fun. It was a joy. Everybody kind of gets to the point, it's like, "Oh, we're going to run a stunt school." It's like, no, I'm not running a stunt school. I don't want to train people, but I do want to have people experience it. And that was my chance to get people to experience what is it like to be a stuntman. None of them ever became stuntmen. They don't want to be stuntmen, but they can now say, like, "Yeah, I was a stuntman for the day." And it's kind of fun. And it was really cool for me.
And what about liability?
You know what? It'd be really tough insurance-wise in America, which is one of the problems that I had when I was in Las Vegas, because the insurance policy was such a pain in the butt. Whereas here, it's people are responsible for themselves. Everybody has their own health care. It's kind of socialized. We had insurance and stuff like that, so it wasn't a problem. But once we got rolling, they realized what we were doing, and we actually had one of the insurance companies come out and do a group, like a team building thing there, and they were astonished. It's like, "Oh my God, I can't believe you're doing the stuff that we would consider just be outrageous, and it's so easy and so fun." And we never had 7 years. We never had a problem. We had one person that got hurt, kind of goofing around. It wasn't our fault. We had a window that's on fire. They can jump through the fire window, and they decided to do a flip through it, landed face first in the mats, and tweaked their neck a little bit. But it was never anything because you're only about 2 feet off the ground, so it's not like a big deal. But it was enough to give them a scare. And of course, we checked them out. They were fine. But that was in 7 years. That was it.
Well, that's great. Now you moved to Rialta.
Rialta, yeah.
Am I saying that right? In the
Rialta,
Netherlands.
yeah, in the Netherlands.
Why there? And how did you end up there?
Well, when I was in Vegas, about the time we did the Stunt World thing, I met my wife, who is from Holland, and she's been traveling the world since she was 18 years old or something like that. And she just happened to be in Vegas at the same time I was in Vegas. We met on the Strip, and just hit it off. And we lived together for about a year, went back to California for a short time. And then we decided that we wanted to start a family. She wanted, of course, to come back home where her doctors were and stuff like that. It's like, I understand that. So I came out here and fell in love with the place. It's amazing. It's all country. where we're at is nothing but farmers and farmlands and stuff like that. The people are friendly. It's just a typical small town that I fell in love with. And, you know, in the movies, we're always on the road. So it really doesn't matter where you're based out of anymore. It used to be you have to be in Hollywood, but not anymore. I spend, you know, more time on a plane than I do, you know, any place in particular. So it was an easy decision. It's like, all right, if I'm going to travel to the East Coast, you know, Atlanta or something like that from Las Vegas or from Amsterdam, the flight is almost the same. It's the same distance almost. It's not that far different. So the choice was easy.
Now, where are you from originally, Chuck?
I was born in New York. We lived there until I was about 7 years old, and then we migrated to the West Coast to Los Angeles. And I grew up in California in Hacienda Heights, where I spent most of my life up until I moved to Las Vegas. So I guess I'm kind of a native Californian, but I was born in New York.
And what is the difference between the Netherlands and the United States?
Oh, just the pace. At least where I'm at now, I guess Amsterdam, big city is a big city. It doesn't matter where you're at. But I'm in a small town, and where we're at, it's the pace is so much slower. It's more relaxed. For me, it's just a safer environment for the kids. Crime is almost non-existent. I mean, the big reports of crime is somebody sold a bicycle, you know. So whereas in LA, it was shootings every other day. So the just the overall feel here is just much more pleasant, much more peaceful, much more relaxed. And I enjoy that, especially, you know, my later years in life now. I want to slow down. I don't want to be fast paced. I don't like the Hollywood. I was never a Hollywood guy where I go to parties and do this and that. I like to go to work. I like the busy pace at work, but then once I'm done with work, I like to leave and you know, slow down and be at a normal pace.
Do you have children?
I do. I have twin girls that just turned 18. Actually, my daughter just they're twins, but they're a year apart in school. Lily, who is the younger of the two, moved ahead 1 year, so she's been in university for a year now, up in a little a smaller community called Cronin to the north. And now Jessie, today or yesterday actually, we found out that she graduated and she's been accepted to, or she's going to university next year now. So we went to dinner tonight and celebrated for her. And they're both 18 and growing like weeds. Jessie's as tall as I am now.
Now, do either of them have any aspirations about getting into the entertainment industry?
No, none whatsoever. Thank God. That makes me so happy. They're intelligent. They're intelligent. Jessie looks like she's going to go to school. She's really good with the sciences and stuff like that. So she's probably going to major with chemistry or something along that line. And Lily was going with biology, but now she's changed paces and she's going actually for her law degree. So she's going to start law school in Groningen next year. So I got two. I don't know where they got it from. It wasn't me. They got some brains that apparently I don't have because I follow my head for a living. They're going to actually make more money than I ever did and not have to work a day in their life.
Tell me about your wife, Chuck.
My wife, Karen, is she's wonderful. She's supportive of me. She's been supportive of me from day one. And she always took care of pretty much everything. And now she's moving on and she's a photographer. My daughter Lily competed in horse events, dressage and jumping and stuff. And we kept looking for a photographer, like a sponsor photographer to do pictures and stuff for her promo stuff. And we were never really happy with anything they did. So Karen said, okay, let me try it. I'm going to rent a camera. So she went and rented a camera and fell in love with it. And now she owns a camera and she's one of the top horse photographers in the Netherlands now. And she's got some really big contracts with a lot of the equipment people that make the bridles and the outfits and the saddle pads and stuff like that. And they send her stuff and she goes out, she shoots the products for them and they run it on their websites and on their social media. So she's doing really good. She might be going to Dubai here in another month for another company to do a shoot. So, you know, she's doing great. She's doing way better than I am at the point.
That's okay. That's okay.
Yeah, I don't mind. I've been running, so it's kind of nice to slow down and let her take the pace. And I'm still working hard, so it's all right.
There you go. There you go. Now, when I was in the service, I had the opportunity to go to Amsterdam a number of times. Tell me about that, your experiences there.
You know what? Amsterdam is another one of those big cities. It's funny. It's the same thing when I was in Las Vegas. I get people would come and visit me in Las Vegas, and the first thing they do is, let's go to the Strip. I'm like, oh God, not again. And the same thing. Everybody comes to the Netherlands like, we want to go to Amsterdam. I'm like, oh, okay. It's interesting because I like the European culture. I like the fact, I mean, you go into Amsterdam, and it's old school. It's buildings that are 300-400 years old, and it's funny in America and stuff like that. We laugh like that building's 100 years old. And I think, oh my God, it's 100 years old. The house we live in now is 100 years old, and it's spanking. Looks like it's brand spanking new. You go into Amsterdam and stuff, and some of those buildings, some of those churches and stuff like that are just ancient. 400 or 500 years old, some of them, and just the history is amazing. I love that part of it.
Well, that's great, and I loved it too. I loved it too. How about your other life's achievements, things that we haven't talked about?
Oh God.
Discuss what do you consider some of your greatest achievements?
I mean, I was an athlete growing up, which is why the stunt thing came so natural. I raced BMX and did, fairly well on the local circuit. I started racing go-karts when I was probably 14 or 15 years old, and it became kind of my life for a long time, the racing end of it, where I was traveling around the States, going to Portland for races, and then we'd pack up and go to Daytona, and I'd go to Phoenix. It was something I never thought I was going to do, and I loved it. It grew too fast, though, for me, because I was doing really well, so they kept moving me up in classes and stuff like that. Next thing you know, I'm competing against factory people. I'm working out of a Chevy Chevette. I had my go-kart in the back of it with all my gear in the front seat. And I go out there, and there's fifth wheels pulling up with, 6 carts for one driver and full machine shops in it. And here I am, little privateer, under a makeshift tent, working out of the back of a hatchback, And so it became tough. Even when I was out driving these people, they had their equipment was so much better. I couldn't compete, so I got frustrated and had to kind of walk away. I kind of missed that, and I'm getting back into racing again. I've got a BMW drift car that I now am starting to use, and I've competed in one event and did okay. Again, it was one of those things I went in and worked. My first race was against a 30-year veteran. So, it was a learning experience, but I loved it. And that's kind of the sports have been my life. Everything I've done was sport related. 5th grade, I was voted the best athlete for the school. Got an award for that. Went on into high school where I was a varsity letterman for water polo and swimming and diving. Everything about me involves competition in sports. So that was even before stunts. That was my life.
Tell us what a drift car is.
A drift car, it's a race car, but when you race, it's braking traction. So you're never really in control. I mean, you are in control, but it's always the car's in a slide. So it's high horsepower with the back end kicked out sideways, and the car next to you, hopefully about a couple feet away, and you're just matching their moves, and you go from the lead car to the chaser, and then vice versa. And whoever can maneuver the best and shows the right spots that they're supposed to hit, it's voted on, and you win. We usually just go out and play, and we just get 2 or 3 of us in a row and just, get bumper to bumper, and then put the cars in a slide and see how close we can get to each other without crashing. So a drift car is just that. It's you're in a drift, you're in a slide, and the whole idea is you're never supposed to come out of the slide. So you shift from left to right and vice versa. So you're going around the track through these turns with the car constantly pitched sideways. Falls right into my category with stunts, because that's what we do. We go through an intersection and slide through an intersection. It's the same type of thing. That's drifting.
Now, how about challenges, both past and current?
Challenges started for me, well, I mean, through school, of course, competing and stuff like that. But I guess my first major challenge would have been when I first got in the movie industry, because I got into the industry knowing nobody. I had no connections, no nothing. I met a gentleman when I was working for a place called Malibu Grand Prix in Puente Hills. I was the chief mechanic in the place. And one of my best friends was the assistant manager, Mike Thayer. He introduced me to his friend, who was Mike Vendrell, who happened to be doing the Buck Rogers series. He was Gil Gerard's stunt double as well as a stunt coordinator on the show. I met him, and of course, is like, oh my God, I've always wanted to be a stunt man. I had a list of things. I want to be a race car driver. I want to be an astronaut. I wanted, it was all action associated things. So stuntman was on this list. I never pursued it because I didn't know where to start. And he took me to a movie set. The first movie set I ever was on was Fast Times at Ridgemont High for the football sequence. And he took me there as his guest, and I just ran all night at that Van Nuys High School, moving pads and helping him set things and this and that. I was hooked from day one. And then he got divorced and he moved away. I never got to really talk to him again after that, but the seed was planted. So now it was like, what's it going to take for me to get in the movie industry? So I started doing extra work. I was a production assistant. I worked as a grip, whatever it took to get on a movie set. And I would just look through the trade papers, like who's doing what, intern, what, it didn't matter. And eventually, 3.5 years later, I finally got an opportunity. I got to do my stunts. I got in the Screen Actors Guild, and I've never looked back. That was probably the first and the biggest challenge for me. But even after that, I started out as a nobody. I didn't know anybody, and I've had to keep building that reputation. And I'm still, to this day, 36 years later, I'm still having to prove myself against these kids, that are just starting out. And I've got all this experience, and the producers are looking at the dollar figures like, well, but we can charge, you can get this guy for cheaper. I'm like, yeah, but you don't get my experience. And so the challenges never end. It just keeps going. The environment just seems to change. But yeah, this industry is a nonstop challenge.
And how about disappointments?
Oh, so many times when I've been perfect for a certain job and I didn't get it because of politics. Again, with the challenge part, because I'm not associated with the right group, or I'm not associated with the right people and stuff like that. I've lost commercials. I was an instructor for Richard Petty many years ago in Las Vegas with a NASCAR. And I was with them for 5 years as an instructor. And they brought a commercial to Las Vegas to do. And of course, my name came up. They're looking for stuntmen that can put this together. And like, I was the guy in Las Vegas to do that, because I was, one of a few drivers, but I was the only stunt guy in the group. So push come to shove, I was ready to get doing. And all of a sudden they say, oh, we're bringing these experts in from LA, which were some of my friends, but and none of them were race. There was one or two that were somewhat race car drivers, but none of them were real race car drivers, but they had the right connections and they got the job that I didn't get. And then later I saw them on the set and they're like, oh my God, if we knew you were here. I'm like, come on, you guys knew I was here. It's just, I got blown off. And, there's been jobs like that I was perfect for. And you don't know the right people. You don't have the right connections. You don't hang out with the right person. It all comes back and haunts you. And, if it's not meant to be, it's not meant to be. And you kind of move on. It's disappointing because I know I got what it takes. And sometimes you just can't convince them that you're the right person for it. Just the way it goes.
And what are you working on right now?
Like I said, I just worked yesterday on this series here in the Netherlands called Sleepers, and I'll be back next week for another sequence. So we have to beat up a guy. So it's some fight choreography. That's it at the moment. I've got some projects on hold in America because of the writer's strike. Everything is kind of shut down. So at the moment, I'm waiting for that to clear up so we can actually get back to work there. But I'm trying to stay busy as I can, here in the meantime, and mostly it's non-action stuff here. The Netherlands isn't known for making action movies, but occasionally we'll get something here and there. I go to Germany, I go to Belgium, depending on their needs. But they also have stunt teams there that are kind of more fixated. So it's tough. And coming from Hollywood, it was funny. We were talking about this yesterday. Coming from Hollywood, and of course they look at my resume and like, oh my God, he's overqualified. He doesn't, he won't work with us. He's going to take over. I'm like, that's not what I'm here for. I'm a team player, but they don't know that, and they just there's a persona that we get, being from Hollywood or being, an American stuntman that in Europe that is really tough to break because we're kind of looked at differently. I come in as a foreigner, and I understand now when foreigners come into the States and trying to find work at certain things they might be perfect at, they get shunned away because, they're a foreigner. And now I'm a foreigner in a foreign land, even though I'm a permanent resident here and I have a business here, I'm still considered the American foreigner. So, it's an ongoing battle. It's never ending.
And what are your thoughts about the writers' strike?
You know what? I support it because being a member of the Screen Actors Guild, because our contracts are up and we've already voted for strike as well. The problem is the networks and the producers and stuff from the studios. We made deals many years ago when the streaming services were starting to give them a break to get going. And that break has never been, brought back. I've done series for the streaming services and stuff like that. And I get residuals on what's supposed to be a top rated show. And it's a fraction of what I thought it would be, Meanwhile, the CEOs of these companies are making millions and billions of dollars, and it's just not being shared. And it's a shame because there's a lot of work opportunities and they've created a lot of jobs. But now that they're big and they're powerful, they're using that to their advantage, and we're the victims of it now. So it's time to just even up the playing field, and let's make movies and let everybody get a piece of that pie, and not just the top echelon people that seem to be the ones that they just don't want to give anything away, and it's a shame.
And do you think the top echelon is going to let go?
You know what? Eventually, they're probably going to have to. It's a tough call because the business has changed from when I started, where everything was based in Hollywood, and now it's global. Although now I'm seeing, yesterday I saw a protest in Berlin, the writers in Berlin who were supporting the WGA in Germany. That's great because it's only going to affect everybody. What places like, and I hate to mention, there's Netflix and Amazon and these things who have now opened up branches around the world. Netflix has a huge office in Amsterdam now, and they're making European films, and they're getting away from the unions, and they're getting away from have to pay residuals in general, and they're making a fortune. And meanwhile, I've taken a cut in pay. I get no residuals, and I'm supposed to be happy about that. Like, guys, I need to make a living still, and at 61 years old, the jobs are few and far between, and you got to give me a chance to at least feed my family. And now I'm making pennies on the dollar of what I used to make, and it's supposed to be happy about it. And that's just not fair.
Very interesting. Anything you'd like to add or pitch?
Well, I'm slowly moving beyond the stunt world. It's funny, I'm complaining about the producers, and I've got a couple projects that I'm going to produce and direct of my own as an independent filmmaker. I've got some, I had just had a meeting actually earlier today with a guy that's putting the cast together and going to get the investors involved for a project that we'll hopefully be doing in the Bahamas. I've got some projects that are here in Europe and in the Netherlands in general that I want to get going. And I've got a big war movie that I'm supposed to direct that is in the final stages of getting kind of off the ground, called Dark Side. And I'll be directing that. And I'm just excited because it's a new chapter in my life where I don't have to get beat up, and I can use my knowledge that I've got from both stunts and from filmmaking in general, to kind of lead the way now and be the guy that is the inspiration, the one that's giving the directions and telling people, how the story's going to go. So it's fun for me. It's a, like I say, it's a new chapter. It's a new challenge. I'm never going to give up the stunts, but it's nice to be in charge.
Well, after you've been knocked around a little bit in the stunt world, how's your health?
I'm pretty healthy. I play soccer, football here every Monday night. I'm running a lot less. I've decided that it's easier for me to be the goalkeeper. So it's funny because I'm the only American in the area. So I'm considered the best keeper in all of Raalte. My teammates always tell me, it's like, you're the best American keeper in all of Raalte. I'm like, I'm the only American keeper in Raalte. Like, yeah, but that makes you the best. So we laugh. I still get around. I cycle all over the place. My body is in okay shape. It's beat up a little bit. I have, occasionally have some back problems. I occasionally have problems with my knees and my ankles, joints. It just abuse over the years. It's taken its toll. But you work through it. At some point, maybe I'll get my knees replaced. I just hate doctors and surgery, so I put it off. But I'm in good shape. I'm ready to keep going. I still hit the ground. I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid to do a fight and get thrown around and knocked into walls and bring it on.
Well, that's terrific. I want to thank you for sharing all of this on the Boomer Pod, Chuck.
My pleasure. It was such a pleasure to be here and be able to share some of my stuff. I like to do that to inspire people and share some of my knowledge and maybe lead the newer generation of people in the right direction.
Well, please be safe and be well,
Yes,
and my best to your family.
Oh, thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, Larry.
And you will be happy too.